Original estimates were over 500,000 deaths from combat, starvation, and disease. Modern estimates put the number closer to 1 million. And in the thick of it all, a handful of women from Indiana nursed the sick and dying from both sides. This is the story of an alumni association that wouldn't exist at all if not for the brave women who went off to war and returned to found the first hospital in this region. And what would one day become one of the largest, most respected nursing programs in this nation's history.
I'm amazed how they could do that. Those people were not nurses, and they were sent down to take care of the sick. And I think that would be very, very difficult. But our sisters just went right into it and seemed to do a really great job. In fact, we were the forerunners for the Navy Nurse Corps.
That's our heritage. That's why we have a hospital. That's why we have nurses. It's because of the sisters who were nurses in the Civil War.
Sisters of the Holy Cross answered the call to care for hurt and dying soldiers, but only if they could treat men from both sides of the conflict. Two of them got on a Mississippi River boat that had been converted into a hospital ship called the Red Rover and didn't get off until the war was over.
They came back after the Civil War and opened the hospital, started the nurses training, St. Joe Training School, 1907, and then went right down to 1975 when it closed.
But before it closed, 2,270 young women over a 68-year span would earn diplomas in nursing from one of the best 3-year programs in the country.
I have been told that if you say that you're a graduate of St. Joe Holy Cross School of Nursing, that you're right there on the list and they'll hire you. Kind of like if you are an Eagle Scout and you have that on your resume, it looks good.
And our nurses work all over the world. We had a lot of sisters in nursing. You're in the ministry that you love and you're helping people get well.
We were taught first year, there's a difference between sympathy and empathy. Empathy is putting yourself in that situation, and then you can connect with the patient. That was very, very good advice.
Nursing is the most trusted profession. You have to value that and know that. You have to be there and be non-judgmental. I think that's the biggest part, is that you can't judge them because you never know where they've been, where they've come from.
For a nurse, that's the most important quality she has, is the compassion that she shows. Not only to the patient, but to the families too.
What a privilege it is to be there and care for someone and watch them mend, watch them get well, or be there when they die to help them with that process.
Someone once said that if you know nurses, there are no angels. But they might be the next best thing.
In the 3-year program, you went right in and worked in the hospital immediately. The students staffed the hospital most of the time.
Often with no pay, while they learned their profession and earned a diploma over a 3-year period.
And I remember being on night duty when we just had one RN in the house, and all the rest of the floors were staffed by students on night duty.
I used to joke and say it's a wonder we weren't asked to stoke the furnace at night, you know. I mean, we were there. But the doctors trusted us.
We had 5 different cities, Jacksonville, Illinois, Carroll, Anderson, and Kokomo, besides South Bend, and everybody would be in South Bend for the first 9 months of our training. And then they would go off to their own home hospitals. Then we'd go on affiliations. Some of the girls went to Riley Hospital in Indianapolis. Some of them went to Madison, to the psychiatric hospital down there. I personally went to Carroll, Illinois for my rural health nursing. So we were gone for almost a whole year in our junior year, and then we back to South Bend in about March or April until August when we graduated.
We were capped out at St. Mary's, and everybody was just so happy. I loved the color of the capes, and I loved the cap, and I still do. I just think everybody was just overwhelmed with the whole day.
It's almost more important than graduation, because once you reach capping, you've passed all those hurdles in the clinical expertise and the classroom. You know you're on your way to becoming a nurse. It's such a powerful symbol.
I can remember the very moment I got my cap.
It was special. That's why I still hang on to it, I think. I still have mine.
It meant that you were a nurse, you were compassionate, you were going to take care of patients to help them heal, and you were going to work with the families. You were going to do everything you could to help these people get well.
It's too bad that we don't have caps today, because I know a lot of my students would love to have a cap.
By the 1950s, if you wanted to be a nurse, this was the place to come. St. Joseph and Holy Cross Schools of Nursing had earned the reputation as being one of the best in the nation. In 1965, Sister John Francis, who was one of the biggest advocates for the nurses and the nursing programs, started a new alumni association. She knew that if the women stayed connected after graduation, the ripple effect on the world would be incredibly positive.
She called me one night and she says, "My dear," that was her favorite opening, "My dear, would you be interested in helping out with the new Alumni Association?" She said, "I need somebody to keep track of addresses."
Sister John Francis was something.
Oh, she was so energetic, and she was so involved.
She just pushed us to get to know ourselves, then to get to know the neighborhood you lived in, and then to get to know the community you lived in, and then you do something.
Sunday afternoon, she would call me right in the middle of a Bears game and say, "My dear, I just got this note from so-and-so, and we have a new address for you."
She'd say, "My dear, I know you can do this." And she says, "I want you to be a leader."
She was looking to the future and wanted some kind of an organization that would bring the nurses together after they graduated.
We just really think that she's always with us. When we have meetings, we just feel her presence.
Nobody ever else volunteered to do my job for me.
Sharon's been the only membership chairman for 50 years.
Since the very beginning, when Sister called and said, "Hey, I want to do this, will you help?" And now she's been helping for 50 years.
It's going to be in my obituary that I was a member of the Holy Cross School of Nursing Alumni Association.
I think probably it's grown more than she thought it ever would. That's just my thought.
But the days of the in-hospital 3-year diploma programs were coming to an end. Degree programs were being developed at colleges and universities all across the country.
So now it was the education of nurses that was important. The 3-year program was out.
I tell you, I've had a wonderful career in nursing, and I wouldn't want to have it any other way. I'm so happy I graduated from the 3-year program.
In 1975, after 68 years of training nurses in one of the nation's most prestigious 3-year programs, St. Joseph and Holy Cross Schools of Nursing in South Bend closed forever. Times, after all, are always changing. The Alumni Association, begun just 10 years earlier, continued, even without the flow of new graduates, for an amazing 40 more years.
Sister John Francis, do you know what you started? Look what you started. Look what you did. Look at the seed that you planted in so many of your graduates.
Sister, we managed to keep going for all these years. Are you proud of us now?
She's rejoicing that it lasts 50 years and all of we've done.
She would probably say, oh yes, my dear, could you stay on for a few more years?
She was the one that got the alumni started, and it was a wonderful thing to do.
She would be so proud, and she would be so thrilled.
Sad that it's going to end, but we're going out on a strong note, and so we're celebrating is what we're doing.
Testament to a 3-year program that year after year evolved and set the highest standards in nursing. A program begun in 1907 by the same women who went off to war, and hundreds more over 7 decades who made a big difference in the world. The graduates of St. Joseph Hospital and Holy Cross Schools of Nursing.